So, not much to do with the top hands. We have a king jack on the bottom here. I'm assuming our hero is going to end up folding here. This is usually a 3-bet for me. This looks like, and this is what I'm talking about when I say kind of developing reads when you can, just because he has. I'm not someone who's played a lot on PokerStars, but I think this is supernova status. You'd assume he's more of a reg, and that his range is probably a little bit wider if he's a good winning reg. And that he's, going to be an aggressive player. So the king jack, it's close. It's not like it's not like a snap 3-bet, but I think it's a good spot, especially against a regular, to let him know that you're aggressive and that you're behind him and that you're going to be a pain in the ass. So the deuces are going to be a fold in that spot. And okay, this is another one. This is one of those hands. I really like this bet on the turn, and I really want our hero to follow through on the river. This is one of those situations where I think a lot of regulars, especially if they're multi-tabling a lot, and I see him up here on the top left, and he's not at this table, but that doesn't mean he's not playing 12 or whatever tables. It's one of those spots where a lot of guys will plan on showing down. They'll call twice and end up folding the river, and because they don't expect you to be betting with a showdownable hand. And we do. This is a similar situation that came up in the last video. We do have like a weak showdownable hand, and it's something that a lot of times the temptation is to just either check the turn and try to get to showdown cheaply and hope that he has like a weaker king or something like that, like a king 10 suited, king 9 suited, queen jack, and he just was tagging along. But again, that's sort of sitting in the passenger seat and hoping for things to happen instead of firing and making things happen. I think a lot of times maybe if he has some kind of weaker ace, or maybe obviously if he has king queen, like he's gonna have trouble calling this turn and calling the river too. So, using your positional advantage and using the initiative is really key there, and our hero did that really well there. So, kudos to him. I would have also made sure, especially if a blank hits the river, to fire one more time. Any rag for sure, just fire again and try to get him off the ace-high hands. And, it's important to keep in mind too, even if he calls you down, he knows you're capable of doing that. So you put something in his head that he says to himself, I can't play this guy as if I would play any other standard opponent. He's going to put me to the test. He's going to make me make difficult decisions, and that's to your benefit, that you're making your opponents make tricky, tough decisions that they're going to second guess themselves for. So definitely good work there. I mean, I'm trying to think of a river that I would probably maybe not bet. I guess if an ace falls, that might be the one example of a river that I wouldn't bet. But that's probably the only one. I think obviously a king or a jack, but a queen too, I think would also usually shake off a lot of those ace highs that we're intending to call down. But I think maybe if an ace falls, it's the only hand where any kind of weak showdownable hand that he was planning on calling down with probably just got there. And I mean, I wouldn't say that he was necessarily planning on folding like a smaller pocket pair anyway. So our hero caps the ace king up here, which is the right play. And we get a pretty ragged flop. Not necessarily bad news though. Our hand could for sure be good. So definitely go ahead and continuation bet this flop. You don't want to. I mean, basically just turn your hand face up and told everybody exactly what you have. So I don't blame Frankie here for raising. I would do the same exact thing to try to put pressure on him, and it worked. And it's one of these guys will probably end up having a hand weaker than what we had. Once he raises though, it's tricky because it's hard to call on that spot knowing it might be jammed. I think after you check the flop, it's okay to fold to the raise, but it's a pretty crappy spot. I would just go ahead and bet and sort of continue with the line of I have a monster hand that you introduced when you capped pre-flop. Don't necessarily turn your hand face over just yet. Maybe when the turn comes, if you brick, you can sort of slow down a little bit. But once you cap pre-flop, you really do have to continuation bet there. So good open. I just thought of a scenario where if this guy has, like he did, a smaller pair, where you can bet and put him in a really uncomfortable spot because he knows he has a guy with a big hand behind him. But for all you know, the guy behind him can have ace queen, and you can fold out the pair there and get heads up against the ace queen or something like that. So it's a situation where a lot of good stuff can happen. You're not likely to get bullied out of the pot once you lead out too, because for all they know you have aces by capping out of position pre-flop. It's a really strong move. So if you're going to take that really strong move pre-flop, you have to continue with your story at least on the flop, and then go from there.